Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How is it going? How's it going? It's not Tuesday. You're not crazy. You're not crazy. It is not the it's not the proper day. Streaming at a different time today because I will not be available tomorrow to do a live stream because of a package that's getting delivered at my apartment back in Oroville, so I can't be in Chico. I can't live stream tomorrow. So either way, it should be exciting. I hope you're looking forward to it. You enjoy it. And yeah, we already had some people in here at the start, but yeah, we figured we'd do it kind of later in the evening stream. Kind of a weird light thing. I'm probably not doing what I should be. There's this iMac, it's called a screen bar made by BenQ that they sent me to try and review. And it's really good for lighting the tabletop, but not super good for lighting myself because it doesn't curve around forward. So lighting should be a little different. Aren't package deliveries inconvenient? They are. In fact, if Amazon Key was available in Oroville, I would definitely use it. I don't worry about that type of thing. If I could just from a different location have the package, like if the delivery guy could open the door and leave it on the inside and lock it, I would use that so much. There's too many instances, and I basically keep nothing expensive at my apartment anyway. So I wouldn't care. Plus, you get the Amazon Cloud camera, which I do use anyway. But since that's not available here in Butte County, I can't use it, which sucks, which means I kind of have to be there for it. I didn't upload today. I apologize. So yeah, other update was there was supposed to be a video yesterday. We had a what is it right here? We had a CFast card malfunction. So basically, Nathan was here yesterday, and we were making a Apple Sheep Reacts video, another one of those, because those seem to do really well. People like those types of videos, so we were breaking down. I don't want to give it away. I'd rather you guys just wait for us to do it again, and then you'll find out what it was. But let's just say a very heavily requested reaction video. It was by far the video someone made that by far got the most requests, like, please react to this. We were reacting to that. It was a long video, like the uncut version of it was about 40 minutes. And then the CFast card was unmounted. We tried several tactics of switching it to Windows and Mac and getting it back and forth, and we couldn't get the files off of it, so it was lost. And we didn't have time to reshoot it, and we didn't have the energy because it took a long time to film and set up, so it was tricky. Anyway, first super chat is from Dudes of Apple, who donates 99 cents. No question, but I appreciate it, as well as Kieran Dial. Thank you very much for your donations. I don't want to give everyone my Electronium wallet address because I'd rather take American currency. So convert your Electronium and donate it that way. That's okay. Anyway, also there's been do you think Apple would reveal a service like Amazon Key? No, that's not really something Apple would get into, especially a company like Apple that's very much about like encryption and privacy. That sounds like something Apple would not do, but definitely like something Amazon would. That would be something Amazon would be like, we're coming up with new tactics, new ways of here. I can light frontwards a little bit better. There we go. They'd be like, oh, we can make new tactics of getting in-home deliveries. That seems like an Amazon idea and not a Apple idea. iHunter super chat, thank you very much. But yeah, if you guys been reading up the news, there's a bunch of little things, not a ton of things I can make an entire video on, but there have been some minor things, like there's a supposed leak that there's going to be a blush color iPhone 10 coming out soon, as predicted. A lot of people thought that was happening. So that'll be pretty cool to see if Apple releases that. Maybe this March, maybe at that event. And also lots of rumors for micro LED technology. So it's rumored that people are actually, Apple's developing their own factories to develop micro LED, which would likely be implemented into the next Apple Watch. I don't think that'll be implemented into this year's iPhone. That seems a little bit soon, but the Apple Watch maybe this year, which would be interesting. That means higher pixel density, thinner bezels, less power usage, so maybe always on display, less burn-in. You can't get burn-in on micro LED. But anyway, yeah, interesting stuff. And there was a super chat from Akatum. Sorry, don't know how to pronounce it, but thank you. Again, no comment as well on that. I look underneath it, I don't find anything. But anyway, we got a comment on this one from Alexander, who says, do you think they will replace the 2017 iPad at March event? Keep up the great work. It's really a mixed bag. I'm not really sure, to be honest, because when I think about it, it seems like, oh, okay, we got a lot of super chats to catch up with. It seems like it might not be a product unveiling at all, because usually event announcements are not very specific about a specific genre. That's why I have my doubts. It's, first of all, it's in Chicago. They haven't done an event in Chicago, and they've, I don't think, ever done an event at a high school, a public high school. And yet it's a press only event. I don't know why they do that, because like the kids at the high school, they don't get to go to that, but I'm sure there's some workshops or something, but they get to just, the event literally said talking new creative ideas for teachers and students. I don't really see what that has to do with new iPads, new iPhones, other than people just saying, oh, that means it's budget. That means they're working on cheap things. That may be the case, but I think, why not just say it's a budget friendly, like, you know, I don't know why they, what it could be. It could just be Apple Classroom updates or discounts for educational people. It might not be a product release at all. If it does happen to be an entire product refresh, then great. Well, all the power to us. That'll be fun. But yeah, if there was going to be some type of refresh or some type of product release, I'm going to assume that's what it is. It would likely be an iPad, even cheaper option, or maybe just a price reduction on the current 2017 iPad. I don't know. But other than that, no, I have no idea what it's going to be. Anyway, the Fastest Boys says, hello, Drew. Now that the S9 is out and it is $700, do you applaud Samsung for keeping it cheap compared to the competition? So do the Discord homies. Yeah. I mean, that's not really cheap, though. I mean, the iPhones are definitely more expensive, but it is, first of all, the S9 is not $700. Technically, it's $720. Let's get specific, because the iPhone 8 is $700. So technically, the S9 is a little bit more than an iPhone 8, which has the A11 chip, 4K at 60, wireless charging, all that current flagship. Cheaper than the iPhone 10. But no, in other words, I don't really applaud Samsung for keeping it cheap. I mean, I'd applaud people like OnePlus for keeping it cheap, and I mean, they're the first ones that comes to mind. But Essential for keeping it cheap. That's who I kind of look to for, like, yeah, you're keeping smartphones cheap. But again, budget smartphones are really not the ones people get excited for, as we've seen. In the market, being the best deal is usually not what makes the most popular smartphone or the most exciting smartphone. Statistically, the more expensive ones are the ones people have the most interest towards. So keeping it cheap, I don't think is a huge issue in the industry right now, because they know most people are going to pay extra for better features. Mattias super chatted and said, hi from Brazil. Hello, Brazil. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, let me see if I missed anything. Okay, I think we got one from Joel, who said, tell us a scary story, much improved lighting. Oh, good. You like the lighting. That's good to hear. And before we get moving on, there was also a super chat from Diego. Thank you for donating. A scary story, huh? Do I have a scary story? Okay, yeah, I had a fairly scary story just a couple weeks ago. So me and my girlfriend like going on hikes. We like going on long walks. And there's this place back in Orville. I don't recommend this to anyone, but so you may know that there's like railroads throughout Butte County. There's one that goes through in Chico. I'm sure if you've had it. And that same train also goes through Orville. And we like walking on this particular path that goes by a river. And because she's busy during the day and I'm busy in the day, a lot of the times we can't go on these hikes and stuff until it's dark, which is fine because it's suspicious. It's kind of romantic. But we went out into the woods and saw a light, a moving light out kind of into the woods, back beyond the trail. So we were walking on the main trail. This is a public trail. You're allowed to walk there. There's no like curfew. It's not like you can't walk on this trail at night. It's perfectly legal. But out into the woods, you could hear dogs barking and someone in with a flashlight looking around. It was very clearly a person, and we started to hear them speaking. And Louise wasn't able to make out what they were saying, but I could hear them saying hello, like they were searching. And so we were like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then next week we went back, and this time we heard the talking, and we heard movement in the back of the woods, except this time no flashlight. So what I can assume is that since it was so late, it was not a ranger. They were not. I know that part of the woods very, very well because I've ridden mountain bikes there. And way back there, we could just hear talking and people going like, hello, like that they were looking for someone, but there was no light. So it was not a ranger. It was not like a park expert. It was just someone in the woods. So last time we walked there, we go a different way now. We choose a different path because we know that there's just, we call them the bush people. So anyway, there's your scary story. Anyway, 3D foam on every cable. That'd be a lot. My goodness. Have you played Fortnite? You check out Tailosive Gaming if you want more Fortnite talk. We just did a video on Fortnite. We live stream Fortnite. Fortnite's on iOS now. Yes, we know. All the Fortnite talk can be had on the Tailosive Gaming channel. If you haven't checked that out, please do. Do you use iCloud email as your primary email? I just switched to iCloud Mail from Gmail and kind of regretting it a little. I can't say that I pick one specific email service. I have a bunch. I made one when I was real little. That's Yahoo, and I still get stuff on that. I, of course, have the iCloud email for my Apple ID, but at the same time, I'm very based around Google services because of YouTube and because of Google Photos being unlimited backup. I have all kinds of emails. That's what I love about the iOS Mail app is that it can combine all of these emails into one app. So I basically get my mail from like 5 different. I have a Gmail, I have an iCloud, I have a Yahoo. Everything kind of combines in the Mail app, which is pretty nice. I do not own a Nintendo Switch, no, but I have 3 friends who own them, so I'm very familiar with them. I've played one before, not a fan, not a Nintendo guy. But then again, I'm not a console guy to begin with. Are you against stock Android or just the Pixel phones? I don't think I'm against anything. I'm not a fan. If I wouldn't say I'm against stock Android. That sounds a little too demanding. But I'm against the Pixel phones for sure. If I had to be against something, again, like I'm not offended if someone's using them, but I guess I could say I'm confused by stock Android because most of the time people Samsung. And he was like, well, I just like Android because it's more customizable. There's more options. But then the point of stock Android to not really customize, it's just to use the default everything. Everything's how Google intended it to be and everything's regular. And I'm kind of like, isn't that hypocritical? Isn't that like you want the customization, but you don't want to customize anything? It feels backwards to me. So it confuses me. It's like, oh, you wish it just worked well out of the box. You should just try an iPhone. It's better hardware. Hi, Trevor says, you need a new project for us to super chat towards. You do. You do have a new project. It's not a top secret one, but I think for your guys' sake, that would be better. The top secret project that is definitely not a project is we're trying to hire Nathan full-time. He comes here every couple of weeks just to help out a little bit because he moved closer. But on top of that, we're trying to get him on full time so that we can do Tailosive gaming videos every single day, so that we could do Tailosive talks every day, Saturday shorts every Saturday, plus more. We want to be able to do more web series as well. Tailosive movie reviews, a heavily neglected channel I want to get back into. All these things that Nathan's making possible already, and he's only here like 2 days. So all the super chat you're getting is really just going right back into Tailosive of going, okay, you guys have given us this much money. This is our budget. How can we make even more stuff? And if you check out the main channel, it's a Saturday Shorts. You can see what kind of stuff that is. Anyway, Super Chat donated $2 and said Super Chat. Thank you. And Ethan, sorry, forgot Ethan, says stainless steel or ceramic for white ecosystem. Well, stainless steel isn't white. Okay, you're talking watch then, you must be, because that's the only Apple product that's ceramic. So for a white ecosystem, I would probably go ceramic just because it's lighter, first of all. One thing people forget is stainless steel is heavier. So this is actually the heaviest Apple Watch you can buy. The ceramic one is slightly lighter, but contains that sapphire glass. So I think that's why Apple charges the most for it. It's like hard to make, but really durable and like the best experience you can go for on an Apple Watch. But the reason I'd be okay with a ceramic Apple Watch is it would match the accessories, but not be plastic. That's why I'm kind of into it. Let's see. mentioned some money in it. Don't see it in the chatting. Huh. I'm sorry if there's super chat issues, many random things. I am not in control of that side of it. I apologize. What do you want to see most at WWDC? Easily, Diego, I want to see the glass-backed iPad, which I'm still not sure if that's going to happen. There's been no proof of that or no rumors or leaks of that. All we have heard is that the iPads will have Face ID and no home button. But that's kind of like a given. It's like, well, yeah, you already did that on the iPhone lineup. You're just going to catch up with the iPad. We get that. But what would be really cool is if they were able to implement the glass back and wireless charging at the same time. I'd love to see that. Why blue and black for the main channel colors? Well, it's really just black. It's not really blue, but I don't know. There's that was the first Tailosive channel. Originally, the Tailosive logo, there was no colors. It was just the black A. It used to be A. Now it's a T. But so the main channel just stuck, and then every other channel just associated itself with a color. So it's like a color coordinated network. You know, tech, gaming, talks, movie reviews. Anyway, Ethan says, can you tweet a pic of how you have your iPhone set up? What do you mean by set up? Like my home screen? I'll do you one better. I'll just show you if that's what it is. There's all my apps on my home screen. That's about it. I don't really need to tweet one. The people, yeah, I got Fortnite and PUBG on the back there, but that's mostly for the gaming channel. I don't really play them on my spare time. I do like the stock wallpaper though, because I can do this, which is really neat. It just kind of moves around. I like 3D touching like that. Anyway, Ethan says, do AirPods work with iPad straight out of the box? They do. Yeah, you can hold your AirPod lid open right next to your iPad and the battery and stuff will pop up. Yeah. I have heard of NF. My good friend Xander saw him in Sacramento. He went to a concert. I listened to not much, but a couple of his songs. Okay. HomePod Mini or HomePod Max? Thoughts when it is coming? I think that the HomePod Mini should be a bigger priority. As someone who owns 3 HomePods, I can confidently say not too many people are going to be complaining about it not being loud enough. I don't think there's a big demographic that's like, I can't buy the HomePod. It's not loud enough. I need the Home Max. I need something that big. And it's already $350. I think the one weak point, I think probably the biggest weak point of the HomePod, aside from all the connectivity things, people like Bluetooth, Spotify, aside from all that, is that $350 for a smart speaker is quite a high starting price. So Apple making smaller budget versions that you can put in places that's like, I don't really need a super loud speaker. I just want a Siri powered smart speaker that can I'm not talking, hold on. I just want a Siri powered speaker that can control my HomeKit devices. That's not my iPhone or anything. So yeah, that's why I think they should work on the mini version. A little bit not as good quality, but still sounding pretty good overall. The more expensive one, I don't really see the point. Just pair 2 HomePods together. That's your loud setup. Anyway, Matthew says, why would you be willing to pay $2,000 max on an iPhone, but then you mentioned the Galaxy is a bit too expensive when both have very good hardware and software, which is personal preference? Well, again, it is personal preference, which is mine. But very simple answer. The iPhone has iOS. That's its exclusive thing. The Galaxy has good features, but it does not have an exclusive operating system because it runs Android. There are a lot of other devices out there running Android for a really good deal. And my loyalty to iPhones, the reason I'm willing to pay $1,000 or $2,000, which again, that'd be pushing it. I'd be pretty amazed if they charge that much for an iPhone. But again, I would still pay it, is because of that iOS that's running on it. That's exclusive. I can't get that anywhere else. Samsung, they got a Snapdragon processor that's going to be on all smartphones in another year. Whereas this is the only phone with the A11. The iPhone 8 and 10, they got the A11 Bionic chip. No one else has that. They've got AirDrop. They got iMessage. They got Apple Music. They built their ecosystem very effectively, and it works. As in, I've tried Samsung phones. I've tried Android. It's not that I've never done it before. I've used all of the PC, all the alternatives you can name, except Linux. But I've used all the alternatives and I can't get the same fluidity, the same experience I do with the Apple ecosystem. Now, I'm not trying to argue that it's the cheapest way. It's definitely not. It's quite the opposite in terms of if you want a good product experience, is in how the products work with others. Also, this is the only phone that can pair to an Apple Watch. Switching to a Samsung would mean switching to a Gear S, which is not as good, and the numbers can show that. But yeah, it's not the cheapest option, but it's the best option. Many Random Thing says, keep up the good work. Sorry for the small donation. No worries. Any little bit helps. Any little bit helps. Ethan Gutterman says, sweet. Thanks for being awesome. What's the best way to contact you for business? That would be my email in the About section of the channel. So you can find that there. Yeah, I don't need to type that in. You can look for it for yourself. It's always there. It's never changed. Michael says, what do you think about Apple making electronic car? Well, obviously, it'd be electronic. I assume you mean electric. I want them to. I'm not sure if they would, but that's the reason, I get a lot of the Apple sheep haters or out there who could just be like, you're blind. You just love anything Apple does. But the reason I always say I want Apple to make all kinds of things. I want them to make HomeKit devices. I want them to make DSLRs. I want them to make cars as well. I want them to make all kinds of things, is because every Apple product I use has this reputation of being reliable, of being satisfying, and serving its purpose very, very well. So to apply that logic and to apply that premium build and manufacturing to other realms, applying that to a car, applying that to HomeKit, applying that to DSLRs, I would enjoy that even more, because every time we add something to the ecosystem, it just works. It does its purpose very well. So that's why I go for it. That's why when people ask me, should Apple do this? I'm always like, of course, because that would mean if we took Apple out of the question, you're basically saying, should there be a car that is built to work well and is thought out thoroughly? It is, and we want it to be, software, hardware, they work together, it's tested, they make sure this is what people want and focus on that before you even know you want it. Yes. In that case, should that type of car exist? Yes. It would be very expensive, though, and I likely couldn't afford it for many years. Maybe we'll get to a point someday where I can't afford it, but we'll see. Could you please do a video on the iPhone SE2? Thanks. I've done several videos on the iPhone SE2, but the issue I don't really need to do another one is there's no new information. We've gotten that leak. I tweeted out. I'll for those of you who don't follow me on Twitter, you don't have a Twitter, I'll get the picture out real quick. But I think it looks pretty real. Everyone on Twitter said it was definitely fake, but that's what it would be. So I was like, then it's not fake. But so basically, there's this leaked image on the back of two phones, and it's a glass backed. But the reason a lot of people said it was fake was little details like the H was too tall, Apple logo too big, or they still have a rose gold and gold option for this version of the SE2, which doesn't make sense. People are saying it would just be blush gold. But either way, everyone was mostly agreeing if they do the SE2, it'll look like that. However, this leak in particular is not real. Anyway. But yeah, no new real news on it other than we hope it happens. We don't know when it's happening. I think it would likely happen if it does at the Worldwide Developers Conference, not the event in March, because I don't think iPhones Apple doesn't really see as being relative to students and teachers. The iPads are kind of more of the push for students and teachers. Anyway, Matthew super chatted says, could you explain why iOS is worth much more than Android in general, not including ecosystem? Let's say you only use the phone itself. Okay. I can use that argument, but then afterwards I want to tell you why I don't compare just phones themselves. Okay, so if we're just talking about the phone, my point is you can get very, very good Android phones for much, much cheaper than Galaxies. You can get OnePlus, you can get Essential, 128 gigs, and they're getting frequent software updates. Like the Essential phone didn't have portrait mode when it came out, now it does. Looks pretty good if you've seen how those cameras have worked. And there's a dozen other Android companies out there that make pretty good stuff, and you're just compromising on a couple of things. So you don't have Bixby. Oh no, you don't have Bixby. But for me personally, I would like an Android phone that doesn't have the Bixby button. I would like an Android phone that doesn't have a chin on the bottom, first of all. But checking your question real quick. iOS, I would say, is worth more than Android because you're getting software updates that will support you after a year of purchasing the phone, or usually less. You'll usually get the new iOS before the phone comes out. So every single year, I'm getting updates from Apple. Apple's making sure that the phone's working correctly. Whereas in my experience with using Android phones, you oftentimes won't get any kind of major operating system refresh. Or if there's a bug, there's no way to fix that bug for months at a time because bloatware, because the skins that Samsung puts on it, and because like I said in my Android P video, only 1.1% of Android devices as of February are running Android Oreo. Android Oreo is pushing a year old now. So Android P beta is rolling out, and yet less than 2% of the market's running the year before that's version. So my point is, Android's not valuable because you're not getting consistent updates. On top of that, iOS is exclusive to iPhone. So you can't get iOS on some other company's cheaper model. And at the same time, yeah, like Galaxies are expensive, but you can get Android on any other device. Is that I thought the point of Android was that you can customize it. I'm not against customization. When I got an Android, I enjoyed tweaking it and making the phone how I like it. But I just realized that you change that and you alter it and then you make the way you want it once, and then you leave it like that way for months on end. So it's not a single good enough reason for me to ditch all of that iOS support that you get year over year. So that's not even mentioning the ecosystem. On top of that, the reason I bring up the ecosystem so much, the reason I consider that a very valid point is that all smartphones, whether you get a Galaxy, whether you get a Pixel, whether you get OnePlus or iPhone, they're all going to do 99% of what you need a phone to do pretty well. What do most people do? They're texting, they're taking pictures, they're taking video, they're scrolling on Twitter, they're playing a couple games, listening to music. They'll do that fine. Can an iPhone 10 be twice as good as a OnePlus 5T? No, it's not how it works. But the difference is, how do these products interact with each other? I don't praise the entire ecosystem just because my iPhone 10 is really good. I praise it because I use every part of this ecosystem in an individual way. Like, for instance, I went on a walk today. I didn't bring my iPhone with me. I had AirPods. I was listening to music. I was tracking my activity, and the music was playing off the Apple Watch via cellular connection, thanks to Apple Music. I can come home. I can airdrop footage I've tagged in, and the grown-up ad. That's why I bring up the ecosystem, because it's if you just want to talk about phones and you were like, well, let's not talk about compatibility with AirPods or Apple Watch or iPad or iMacs or any of that stuff. Let's just talk about phones. They all do fine. They're all, some of them may be a little bit better than others. You can squeeze this one. Okay, great. But at the end of the day, they're all very similar. But the one big difference is I don't have all of this, the iMac, the HomePods, the Apple Watch. I don't have all of that if I would switch to a Galaxy, which would be a significant change in lifestyle. Anyway, Austin Clark donated. Good friend of mine. How's it going? Says, check out Mail by Edison. It's a supercharged iOS mail app and is hands down my favorite email app on the Citadel. Okay, we got a shout out for Mail by Edison. You guys can check that out yourself as well. I'll be checking it out. Thank you, Austin. Austin's older brother of a good friend of mine who's back in town. Should I expect my AirPods to quiet down, or was that something only you experienced? No, okay, the situation on AirPods is that they're the best wireless headphones I've ever used. They sound amazing. They're easy to pair. They pair with lots of different Apple-supported devices. And yes, they are full of lithium battery problems, which means that because the lithium batteries in these are so tiny, it means that they deteriorate over time very easily, just like your iPhone would, and that's why Apple slows them down. A lot of people don't understand why that works. But I've experienced several times my AirPods getting quieter over time just because I use them a lot. Or, to be fair, I've never had a pair of regular earbuds that have lasted over a year anyway. So the AirPods are no exception. I wish there was a way to switch that. But again, the AirPods deteriorating over months and months and months has not gotten me to say that some other pair is better, because I haven't found another pair of headphones that doesn't have that problem or does this form of transferring headphones better. So I put up with that. On top of that, when you buy AirPods, you can get a free replacement within a year of buying them. So for the first 12 months of owning AirPods, if something goes wrong, you can just contact Apple, say, hey, the right or the left is too quiet, and they'll send you a replacement for free. As long as you send back the old one, it costs no money, which is really, really sweet, really easy. So that's why AirPods are still my favorite. I haven't found another pair I like more. So that's it. Why can't Apple make cords/cables? They have billions of dollars and can't make good cords. I don't like cords and cables. It's a shame we have to use them at all. That's why I do the portless challenge. I don't like plugging things in. I wish they could make them better. I'm sure it's something to do with the fact that they probably make more than anyone else, and maybe quality assurance is the issue. But again, I've been sent from a dozen different companies their cables, and they've all frayed and broken as well. So I've yet to find just a great cable company, and on top of that, not really interested because I prefer things to be wireless, as you can see. I prefer to have wireless headphones, wireless charging, wireless data transfer with AirDrop. I don't like cables, period. Have you seen the concept on YouTube with macOS 11? Yes, I actually shouted them out in one of my videos. I don't know if you saw that, but if you can check out macOS 11, it's a really interesting concept someone's made that I definitely want. They make macOS look even more like iOS, and that fluidity of how it works is just like very intelligently designed. I would use an iPhone 5 over a Pixel any day. Yeah, we always get that question. I don't like that question though, because it's it's a hypothetical and not really one that applies to anyone. But people are always like, would you rather use a Pixel 2 or an iPhone 4, or when does it make the difference? Yeah, we talk about that on the Tech Podcast. Check that out while you can. Absolute Zero says, anything you don't like about Apple? Yes, I thought I was pretty vocal about it. I don't like most of the marketing. And a lot of Apple fans, in fact, weren't happy with how I expressed my disliking their marketing teams very much. I thought the HomePod ad was well made. It was cool visuals and it was a neat dancer, but it just has nothing to do with the HomePod. If Apple wants to do stuff like that, why don't they just have a film selection where they're like, hey, we created this cool short film, check it out. Why did they bring the HomePod into it? The HomePod had nothing to do with it. You could have replaced the HomePod and Siri with Google and the Home Max, and it would have made no difference. It talked nothing about, other than the fact that the HomePod plays music. That's that's what I don't understand. Dark Scepter says, fun fact, Apple Care covers the cables. Really, I didn't know that. So if you get Apple Care, you can get replacement cables. Apple Care for the AirPods replacement or no? That I don't know. I usually don't get Apple Care with my products, but I know that I didn't buy Apple Care when I got my AirPods, and yet if there was something wrong with one of them within the first year of buying them, they'll replace either or. So if it means that every 13, 15 months you have to buy a new pair of AirPods, then it's fine with me, because there's not something else that's more convenient. It'd be like, I have to buy a new pair every 15 months. Screw it. I'll go back to wired, because wired's going to break, wired's going to fray, and it's going to be inconvenient along the way anyway. Yeah. But thank you, Vinny. I also don't like Apple I don't like when Apple compromises on accessories. Like, I think, personally, my theory, I have no evidence to support this, but my theory is that some marketing guy at Apple who doesn't really think like I do about the Apple sheep army and how people love this company and they're going to pay whatever they want for what they're looking for, as long as Apple has it. Some guy who doesn't understand that and just looks at Apple as a marketing tactic was just like, you cannot release an iPhone that costs $1,200. You cannot release an iPhone that costs over $1,000 in today's market, because you're competing with the Note 8 and that's $930 and people think that's expensive, and you're competing with the Pixel. So you have to keep the price low. You have to keep it under $1,000. So Apple pushed it as far as they could, because some marketing guy was like, no, you can't release it over $1,000. It'll do horribly. So of course they priced this at $999. That's the very tip of the very tip they could go. They pushed it as far as they could. I think Apple wanted to do a $1,200, $1,400 iPhone 10, but it included the it included the accessories that Apple wanted you to use. I think more people would have been okay. And a lot of people argue with me on this. This is not a common opinion, but I'll get into the super chats. Don't worry. A lot of people argued with me that Apple, it would have been worse if Apple charged more, but included AirPods with the purchase, included a wireless charger, included a fast charging brick with USB-C to Lightning, instead of what they did, which was Lightning earpods, which I don't think Apple thinks is the future. That's just a compromise to include headphones with the purchase. They didn't want to include the dongle. They didn't want to include a 5-watt charging brick for an iPhone 10. If you make all these new fast charging methods, why not ship them with the product? Or I know Apple wants you to use AirPods. They know AirPods are the better option. The Lightning earpods is a compromise. I think it would have been better if opposed to buying all those accessories separately, which would have costed more money, you get them included with the purchase of the 10, and overall overall save money if the iPhone 10 would have costed more. But that's just me. A lot of people disagree with me on that. Someone donated 99 cents and then retracted their message. So thank you for the donation. Born with one eye, nothing is better than macOS Zoom. Good, Carson. I'm glad that's helpful. Yeah, I don't use that very much, but yeah, that is useful. Apple Sheep also super chatted, says, I'm planning on buying a MacBook as my daily driver for homework, entertainment, light gaming, and was wondering if I should wait for the refresh or not. For homework, entertainment, light gaming, I suppose you're getting pretty close to the refresh. So if there is going to be a MacBook refresh, most likely going to be at Worldwide Developers Conference, might be at the March event. That would be, if anything, a budget one. But yeah, you're pretty close to the refresh. So I would say save up your money a little bit. Maybe don't buy one right now. You're only, 3 months from the Worldwide Developers Conference. So just wait a little bit longer. You'll make it. Yeah, all these cheap phones have 5-watt chargers. Exactly, Connor. That's why I think if you're paying $1,000 for a phone, what more is an extra $200 if you get all the best accessories with it? Because I look at it from the perspective of, what if this was your first iPhone and you found out that oh man, this is really expensive, but it's going to be a great deal. So when you buy an iPhone 10, you get AirPods with it, and you're like, wow, these great headphones, and you get a wireless charger with it, and you're like, oh, this is so convenient, and you get a fast charger. So if you want to charge it with wired, it charges incredibly fast. That way you just get the best overall experience, which I think Apple is mostly into. So that's what I wish they would have done. I don't know why they need to include the 5-watt Lightning AirPods. I'd rather have no accessories than the 5-watt charge brick, which I can use literally nowhere. I don't charge my phone with Lightning anyway, and the 5-watt charges so slow. It's like, what's the point in including that? What's the point when you're pushing USB-C so hard to include a Lightning to old style USB cable? I don't know why they want to do that. In a parallel universe where Apple never existed, what company would you give your loyalty to? I couldn't give, because if Apple didn't exist, there wouldn't be a company like them that provides an equivalent ecosystem. It would not be one. It would have to be a diverse group. If I had to choose one, it would probably be Samsung, but Samsung doesn't really make the kind of desktop machines I need. So it would be a mixture of Samsung, Microsoft, that kind of thing. Some kind of hybrid ecosystem that's between some kind of hybrid ecosystem between Samsung and Microsoft, between Microsoft handling maybe the laptops and the PC and the desktop, and then Samsung handling the watch and the headphones and the phone and stuff. Tech for your needs says, I'm thinking of getting an Apple Watch. Convince me. Well, what I can say is from personal experience, it's helpful for someone who works at a desk a lot to remember to stand and to be healthy and to close your rings. It's also great for someone who does a lot on their phone as a notification management system. So you don't have to pull your phone out of your pocket all the time. And personally, if you decide to go the cellular route, I think it's very freeing if you want to go on certain situations where it's where you're meeting people or you're having a social interaction. It's very refreshing to not have that phone display to go waste time on. Be like, what is the data? What is on to check my emails, The watch with cellular means that you'll get a text or a call if there's something major, but because there's no keyboard, because there's no there's not too much you can do on it at once. It's not meant to be a multitasking device. It's just kind of one thing at a time. You're not going to look to your watch as an escape when you're around other people with social interaction. So that's what I've really enjoyed with it, is the notification management. Now with cellular, being able to leave the phone behind and try to travel lighter and try to disconnect a little bit. And then the activity part. Martino Bunny super chatted. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. $1,000 is just too much for a phone. I've been using iPhone since day one. Well, that's why Apple makes phones that aren't $1,000. A lot of people seem to forget that. Like, why did they remove Touch ID? I use Touch ID. Get an iPhone 8. I don't like bezels. Get an iPhone 10. It's that easy. I don't want to pay $1,000. Get an SE. It's $300, $350. Osvaldo says Apple Watch plus AirPods is so worth it for runners. Definitely, if you go on runs or you go on workouts, not having to carry your phone with you while working out or going bike riding, very, very convenient. I haven't used CarPlay, but I assume it is fairly basic because it's meant to be used while driving. So I don't know. I haven't tried it. People want to just complain as if they don't have options. Yeah, you could just not use it. Will AirPods ever get noise cancellation? That's rumored. That's rumored that as the AirPods, the next gen, are rumored to be more waterproof. As a result, being more waterproof will cause more noise cancellation. I'm not sure. Let's see. People are saying, what are your thoughts on the upcoming spring 28 changes to macOS server? Seems like macOS server is pretty much dead by now. Yeah, there's a lot of side projects that have kind of died. I don't use server, so I guess that's why I haven't gotten much attention to it. But I'm guessing it's similar to the iPad mini and Mac mini. It's just not enough people are into it, so they're not considering it a priority. That's all I can assume. Why is the 835 beating the A11 in speed test? I would love to see that. I haven't seen a single test in which the 35 beats the A11. Open any Geekbench app and try it. In fact, why was the iPhone 7 beating the S9? Because that was happening. Don't know why. I know you like the server. It's just I guess not enough people do. That's not considered a priority anymore. The iPhone SE2 is a good idea. Yeah, I think Apple having a introductory level smartphone that has some premium features in it is a good idea because of, like I said earlier, people are like, $1,000? I don't want to pay that for a phone. Okay, Apple still says three phones. Apple still sells three phones that are under $1,000, even when they're maxed out. Even when you get a maxed out SE or a maxed out iPhone 8 or 8 Plus, they're still under $1,000. So I did just single out one viewpoint and then complain about that one viewpoint and don't address the rest. I guess that's easy. What is my least favorite Apple product? I mean, if we're talking all time, probably the Newton. But right now, I guess I don't use my Apple TV as much as everything else, but I still use it every night, so I can't really complain. If there was one product, Apple product, I had to lose, that would be it, because it's just for watching stuff. It's not really a productivity tool, whereas everything else is kind of more productive. I work on my channel with my iPad and my iMac and my MacBook and my iPhone, and my Apple Watch helps me manage all of that while check my activity, whereas the TV is just, it plays stuff, which is fun, but not I could live without it. I could live without all this stuff, to be fair. Do you still get student discounts for Apple even though you are not a student anymore? I don't. Not that I'm aware of. I still think I'm paying full price for things, but there were things I've purchased when I was a student, and now I'm not a student, but I still got a deal on that. Like, I got the Apple Pro apps bundle, which includes Final Cut Pro and Compressor and Motion and a bunch of apps, Logic, all in one bundle for like $200, even though like just even though like just a Final Cut Pro is usually $300, with the student bundle you could get like $600 worth of programs for $200. I bought that while I was a student. I'm not a student anymore, and I'm still using those products. So I guess that kind of answers your question. Martino donated again. Thank you for $3.99. MacBook with cellular, yes or no? I think that would hurt the battery too much. MacBooks don't have incredibly good batteries, especially if you're editing stuff. You know, it really grinds my gears when people treat brands like a religion. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could draw the line between being a fan of something and worshiping it. I don't know. I wouldn't go that far, because I don't know. I call out Apple on stuff. I don't like a lot of things they do. Like, the marketing is confusing to me, and I don't like that they like I said, they settle for less with the iPhone 10 purchases and the accessories. There's things they do I don't get, but you know, you are on a tech channel, so if you know, we theorize this on other channels sometimes, like on Tailosive Talks and podcasts. We theorize if, like, you know, if I tried to be straightforward and be like completely unbiased and just use complete logic, it would be a very boring channel and no one would really be interesting. I could very easily just upload a video that's, the iPhone 10 is an interesting phone. If you like it, you should buy it. If you don't like it, don't buy it. And then that's the whole video. If you like the S9, you should buy it. If you don't like it, don't buy it. There. See, I'm not treating tech as a religion. But I mean, like, if you're coming onto a tech channel, you should expect a little bit of excitement for new things and maybe hate towards certain brands you don't understand. That's just, I think that's just what you got to do to be interesting. I mean, people hating on Apple is more interesting than someone just coming out and saying, you know, Apple didn't do something, but who cares? It's just a phone. What difference does it make? Anyway, Jacob Williams says, convince me to buy a MacBook Pro Touch Bar. Okay, well, I can confidently say, first of all, MacBook Pro is going to be cheaper than a Surface Book in the first place. So macOS is going to grant you a window into the Apple ecosystem. So first of all, it's going to pair with iMessage. You can have AirDrop. So if you're recording on an iPhone, you can AirDrop that footage to the MacBook. You have 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports, very powerful ports, mind you. They can output 4K monitors, several 4K monitors at once. You can charge on either side. You can plug in anything to any port, with the exception of the headphone jack. But a lot of people make the argument that you have to buy a bunch of dongles for the MacBook Pro to work. You only have to buy one. Just get one quack adapter and you get every single port back, including some you didn't have before, like micro SD. You get Ethernet, you get 3 USB ports, you get the SD card slot, you get an HDMI 4K one, and through all of that, you can still charge things. So if you really want to get crazy, if people think that ports and the things you can plug into your MacBook is how you rate how good of a MacBook it is, get 4 quack adapters and you can plug in 12 USB ports, 4 SD cards, 4 micro SD cards, 4 Ethernets, 4 HDMIs. The possibilities are endless with Thunderbolt 3. That's why I think it's confusing when people look at 4 USB-C ports as a limitation, when each one of those ports can do so much more than any of the ports on the old one could. It's also very fast. PCIe-based solid state's good. Touch ID, if you have a working fingerprint, I don't, is very useful. Yeah, the Touch Bar one, like I said, is mostly about the Thunderbolt 3 ports. Touch Bar is cool. I prefer being able to, as someone who's now using my iMac Pro a lot more now, here's the keyboard. I kind of miss having the Touch Bar. It was easier to adjust display brightness and volume when it was a touch screen. Also being able to share files. I could click on something and there was an AirDrop button to share. It saves a lot of time. It is expensive, but it is kind of, yeah, I enjoy my MacBook Pro. It's useful. I ran this whole network on just a MacBook Pro before I got the iMac Pro. All of the channels, all the gaming, all of the Saturday shorts, all of that, all run off of one MacBook. All of that work, which got me able to quit my job because of that MacBook Pro. I could leave my old job. I could edit with Final Cut, very optimized thanks to macOS, and run a whole channel of networks and pay for this whole office just because of how capable that MacBook was. Very capable device. Anyway, Alden Moore says, "Hey Apple, hey Drew, what did you think of the new Apple ad? I loved it. There's been a lot recently, so I'm sorry, I'm not sure which one you're referring to. But what I can say is the Face ID one was funny, I guess. I don't really know what it was going for, but that's Apple's marketing. Like I said, I'm not really into it. It was just kind of like, things are exploding. Time to okay. Time to buy an iPhone 10 because when I look at things, they'll explode. I don't know. It's just cute, I guess. I just don't really think they convince anyone or make anyone want to buy an iPhone. But I mean, I guess Apple knows more about marketing than I do, so who am I? Charlie Michael says, "Keep up the good work. I was getting wasted in college at your age. Wish I could use Apple products more, but finance industry is Windows only. Sorry to hear that, but keep in mind that Macs can run Windows. It's not that hard. Boot camp. You can get a Mac. Use Mac OS for the good stuff. When you need Windows, boot camp. We do that quite often." Matthew super chatted, says, "Want to hear a joke? Pixelbook is a lot better and more powerful than a 15-inch MacBook Pro with touch bar and maximum storage." That is funny because it's not true. Ihirasawa super chatted, says, "Never has that quack company predicted that you would be giving them free advertising for life." Companies send me stuff a lot of the time, and a lot of the time it's not good. I hate to admit it, and I'm not someone who alters my opinion because it was free or I was paid to say it. There was that Kickstarter campaign. What was it? The dock case for the MacBook Pro. They sent me that. They were like, "This isn't available yet. We'll get." And put your MacBook in a bag. I don't know why people would want to carry around this big sleeve with all the ports on the outside of it. I was like, I'm sorry. If it was a startup, uh, it, they were trying their best and they were trying to get people to buy their stuff. But after using it, I was just like, I don't think this is a good purchase. I don't think it's worth it. I think it was over $100 too. So I was like, no, this not worth it. But yeah, Quack Quack did a good job. I don't just endorse anyone. There's a lot of companies that send me stuff I don't enjoy. Like Blitzwolf sent me a lot of cables. They didn't work very well. They all broke. So I didn't promote them. I was like, no, I'm not going to tell people to buy these cables. They're not good. I tried them myself. But Quack Quack has worked incredibly well. It's been reliable. I've used several USB-C adapters, and the Quack Quack is a little bit more expensive than most. I think they're like $50, but it's worth it because they'll last. I've tried getting the cheaper ones. Like, oh, look, you can get this USB-C adapter for $15, $20. They'll break, or they'll have weird issues with them, or they will only work in certain ways. Quack Quack has worked in every orientation, has worked as an adapter for ever since the day I got it, which was back when we were in the attic. So it's been probably over half a year since I got the Quack Quack, and it still works great. So maybe they should change the name. Yeah, maybe, but I made the name Tailosive, so I probably shouldn't complain about names. Do you still use any Adobe products? I got Adobe Creative Cloud free from my school, and I don't know which app to use. Yeah, I use After Effects for our Patreon outros, and I use my editor swears by Adobe Premiere. I'm not as into Premiere as I am Final Cut. I prefer Final Cut for its optimization and speed, but he's just too used to Premiere and he's too used to that. He doesn't want to switch. But yeah, he still uses that. I use Photoshop sometimes for concept images, but I haven't done that in a while. So yeah, I can still say I use Adobe apps, mostly Premiere, After Effects, Photoshop. But there's also some neat tools my editor showed me in Audition that are really interesting. So yeah. I don't believe you can use Apple Pay for Super Chat, but if you can have Apple Pay, you can have Super Chat because it just requires a debit card. What if video portrait mode would replace green screens? It probably wouldn't work that well, but if they found a way to do it, it'd be interesting. I'd love to see a company try to with AI effectively. I know there's been like Snapchat and Facebook have tried to do stuff like that, but if they could do a portrait mode in video form, but I mean, people are already complaining that oh no, people are already complaining that master photos, and then we'll move to video. Oh no, Extraordinaries has convinced me to get a Google Pixel 2 XL, but I hate that phone. How can I convince you? I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't. What's my reason? So basically, just lie to you is what you're asking. I don't know. Maybe you donate a little more than that. I can convince you. Someone donated. I don't know, something bigger. I don't know. I don't know how much bigger. A lot. If you donated an absurd amount of money, I will on this live stream try to convince you to buy a Pixel 2 XL. I'll use the arguments I know. Anyway, Dark Scepter says, what if the MacBook had an A series chip with a modem for LTE so it can compete in the new, likely not see that as too useful, but I do think the MacBook should have an A series of chips, though, because I know they'd be fast and probably much more power efficient than the current MacBooks are. I don't know if they need LTE, though. A lot of people say they'd use that, but it's like, just use your hotspot. If you have your laptop, you have your phone. Thank you, Formidable G. No comment, but he super chat. Appreciate it. Enjoy the money. I was just kidding. Thank God. I'm glad you were kidding. I don't know how to convince you to get a 2XL. So basically, you were just asking me to lie. Just say everything you don't believe in. Will there be a price increase on the new iPad with Face ID? I assume so. Face ID seems to be an expensive addition to a smartphone or any device. So I assume if they put that on the iPad, it'll probably have a higher starting price, maybe $700, $800 for starting iPad. I don't know. Would you buy an iPhone 8 Plus or an iPhone 10 for a 12-year-old? I don't know about either for a 12-year-old. That seems like a little bit much, but I wouldn't buy a 12-year-old anything anything that much money. Maybe an ice cream cone, but in terms of phone, I don't know. 12 years old. You need a 10 if you're 12? What's your income like? If so, dang. I don't know. A plus is cheaper, I guess. Get that. You know, a 10 year. Yeah, I've seen a lot of kids with iPhone 10s, but I'm just saying I don't think that's necessary. I think when you're that young, you should be focused on other things. Would I have liked one when I was 10? Probably. So it's very hypocritical, but probably if you're 12 or 10, you'd want one. But when you get this age, you'll likely not think a 10 or 12-year-old should have one. Thank you, Formidable G. Let's see. Is the SE a good phone? It is. It's a good, reliable phone. If you want a headphone jack, you still have one. Everyone should have a 10. Jeez. I'm almost 14. I have the SE and it works fine. Get that. There you go. Naomi, I agree. Perfect. Would a 10-year-old have an iPhone 10? So an X-year-old. Beautiful. The jokes, they keep coming. I don't think the 5S will get iOS 12. I think every time there's a new OS upgrade, it loses one cycle of phones. And I believe the 5S is the oldest iPhone that can run 11. So I'm 15 and I bought the iPhone 7 on Black Friday. See, that seems like a good purchase. I've heard that the older iPhones are kind of wiping out the budget Android market because a lot of people will just buy older iPhones. Sold 3 iPhone 10 to a family and their kid got one. She was 13. Man, dude, I had nothing at that age. I had like an iPod, I think. What do you think about Apple killing Touch ID? I see you're not a consistent watcher. I don't care about Touch ID. And first of all, they didn't kill Touch ID because they're still selling phones with Touch ID and brand new ones with Touch ID. The iPhone 8 and 8 Plus and SE still have Touch ID. So statistically, and they're still selling iPads with Touch ID. So statistically, Apple's still selling more devices with Touch ID than without. And on top of that, I have a skin disease known as psoriasis, which means that my fingerprints are always changing. I don't care about Touch ID. But thank you for your super chat. Appreciate it. Is 1,000 a fair price for the iPhone 10? No, not really. It should be 1,200. Plus Touch ID, you have to rest your finger on the device for it to unlock, whereas iPhones, Face ID, I can just look at. It's nice. Have you ever been in a debate club? I feel like you would destroy law. Awesome channel, by the way. I've never been in a debate club, but I hated the idea of them because I've had people explain it to me and it sounds frustrating because I think personally debates can be very interesting and I love debating people. That's just something that I enjoy doing because you understand your point of view better, you understand opposing views better. But it seems like clubs in the school try to kind of force you into a method or force you into saying that there was a winner. I don't think any debate necessarily has a winner. It just depends on the perspective. Winner is relative, and it seems like in the clubs and the classes they try to put some. He had the most points, and I don't know. I don't like that kind of thing. I just like one-on-one debating. Why does the club have to come? Why does the club have to come into it? Daniel Balling says, why is Apple charging $75 to fast charge iPhone 10? Probably because they figure not that many people need fast charging. When you think about, you charge your phone at the end of the day, you leave it plugged in. Whether it finishes at 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. doesn't make a huge difference. But I also, like I said earlier in this live stream, I think Apple should have included the fast charger with the iPhone 10. I don't know why they included the 5-watt. I would have been okay if it costed more, but included a bigger charger brick. The other thing they're probably thinking about is that a lot of people who own Apple products own more than one. Like, for instance, in my situation, I already had a MacBook, which had the USB-C brick, so I didn't need to buy an extra $75 worth of equipment. I already had the brick. I already had the USB-C to Lightning cable, so not everyone is buying into an iPhone doesn't have the USB-C charge brick. It's not only useful for other things. Plus, a lot of people buy iPads, which have larger charge bricks, which can charge your iPhone faster. So, yeah, I don't know why they charge an extra 75, but that's my reasoning. I think that was what they thought they should do. They're like, well, people don't fast charge that much because our A series chips have great standby time. Our phones have good battery lives. So why bother? It just costs more, I guess. I don't know. Lightning to USB-C cables are very expensive. What department could you be useful to at Apple? Not coding, really. Not maybe marketing. I feel like I'd be helpful in marketing, but they seem to have a very specific style they like sticking with. But I'd probably be better at whatever Steve Jobs was doing, which was basically telling people how things ought to work and what things should and shouldn't happen between hardware and software. That not really something I can apply for. It says as CEO. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? What do you think of Michael Fisher, Mr. Mobile? I'm very sorry. I don't know who that is. It's just one of those things I'm not very aware of. I hate to break it to you, but I don't watch a lot of tech on YouTube. Most of what I watch is movie review stuff on YouTube. So I'm sorry, but thank you for the donation. I don't know who that is. I'll have to check them out after this. Daniel Bowling, sorry about that. His last name is pronounced Bowling. Love your show. Thank you, Daniel. Very much appreciated. And Matthew always says, I definitely think that a $1,200 iPhone with all the accessories like fast charging, wireless charging, and AirPods included would be very good. Thank you. Someone agrees. Ever miss Justin Long Mac and PC commercials? Yes, Aaron, thank you. I love that. I miss the days where Apple would just talk about the competition. These days, the advertising seems to act like there's no such thing as a product that's not an iPhone or not a Mac. I miss those days. And then you get stuff like the What's a Computer commercial, which is just cringy and everyone hated it. No, I'm sorry, I don't watch Your Movie Sucks. I know who they are, but I don't watch them. But you think there will be a HomePod update where you can control Apple TV with it, similar to how you can control Chromecast with Apple TV? Yeah, that seems like something they could add. I guess I haven't noticed that they don't do that. I just pair the HomePod to the Apple TV and use it as a speaker. Anyway, I'm a Mac and I'm a PC. Yes, Riley, exactly. It's come up on our hour, so we're going to have to wrap it up. Oh, I'm sorry, Nick. You got in at the very end of it. But thank you guys for your questions and your super chat. Where can I get your t-shirt? For those who don't know, let's just do a silent plug here. In the description of any tech video, just not this live stream, but I think actually, yes, in this live stream, just look in the description of this stream. You can see Tailosive merch if you want to get things like the tee, or if you want to get Apple Sheep merch like the Give Me a Break or Long Live USB-C. All that stuff you can get in the links. It helps support me a little bit, just a little bit, if you guys check out that merch store and buy your own merch, Tailosive branded. So please check it out in the description if you want to support me and also get something out of it other than just your comment being read. So thank you guys for watching. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great night.